Hi there, it's Nicole here today with some simple stamped candy greeting cards. This is with a stamp set that's exclusive to Simon Says Stamp, but was designed by Waffle Flower called How We Roll. And this is something from a couple of years ago. And I thought it would be fun to pull it out of my stash and create a quick and easy set of cards. I am using some of the Waffle Flower Crafts die inks and some simple masking, and then a couple of Simon Says Stamp basic dies, the postage stamp dies and the basic rectangles and squares to create some layers for these cards. The first card I'm going to share was more of an experiment than anything. I just wanted to kind of try it out. And even though this is going to be a horizontal landscape card, I stamped everything kind of portrait. I found it easier to kind of line them up this way for whatever reason. I am using 4 colors of ink from Waffle Flower. I am using the pink, which is the tickled pink, the red called My Pleasure, the yellow, which is You Said What, and the orange, which is Oh Happy Day. And I love how bright and fun these are together. I went ahead and used the same color combination for all 4 cards. They were all created at the same time. A lot of times I think it's really fun. If you're going to be creating one card, why not go ahead and create several, especially with a clean and simple technique like this where it's really easy to create quite a few cards in very little time. I'm overlapping the designs. To begin with, I wasn't sure if I wanted to use the outline or not, and I think it would look great either way, whatever you personally prefer. I just kind of mixed and matched and stamped them along this right side here, which is actually going to be the bottom when I flip it around. And then I'm going to stamp a greeting kind of overlapping part of the candies, and then in that white space that's going to be at the top portion of the card. But first I want to get all of the candy designs stamped along the bottom. One thing that's super fun about this stamp set, when I actually created a card with this a couple years ago, or a year and a half or so ago, I only used the candy design and a thank you greeting. Kind of did a similar all over pattern. I'll show you something kind of similar here in a little bit. But for this one, they have a cute little face where you can customize some of the candies with that. And I think that's a really fun way to kind of change it up and maybe personalize the design a little bit more. There are the candies, so bright and fun. I'm going to use the Misty to stamp my greeting simply because this is going to allow me to stamp the greeting one on top of another if it's needed, in case it doesn't stamp clearly the first time. So I love to be able to do this. That way I can get a really crisp black stamped image. I want the greeting to really pop out from the colorful design of the stamped images. So there is my cute greeting. The card would be fantastic just like it is. You would not have to add anything else if you didn't want to. I did add a little trio of hearts, one of my favorite things to do. This little heart comes from the Waffle Flower Notions stamp set. There's 2 different sizes. I'm using both of them. And then I decided to go ahead and stamp the outline from the How We Roll stamp set over the images. And I think that really makes them pop. Again, it's just whatever you feel like that particular day. I liked it both ways, but when I'm going to add that face and I'm going to stamp it with that black outline, I liked the black outline with the black stamped little happy face. Now, where these images overlap, I think it's going to look a lot better to mask them off so I don't have a whole lot of black lines overlapping one another. I created a couple of masks and I'm going to use those to mask off the candies. This is an easy image to trim out or to fussy cut with your scissors. I used a little Post-it tape to make my mask. You can use an actual masking material. Anything like that that's sticky on the back will work great. I'll place that mask right over one of the images that I've already created an outline or stamped an outline for, and then stamp another one. And I'm going to move these just across really quick and easy. You'll see that once I get stamping, it's pretty fast. I ended up using 2 masks because that really helped a ton when designing this card, or all of the cards, and I used these same 2 masks for all 4 cards. They had pretty much got weren't very sticky by the end, but they worked for all 4, which was wonderful. I'm saving that final yellow candy in the middle for the last. I don't want the black outline for the candy to overlap the greeting. And so to do that, I'm just going to mask off the top of the candy and not create the black outline for that, so that it's back behind the greeting and it's still very legible. If I'd stamped over that with the black outline, I think it would have really interfered with the greeting. I'm going to go ahead and add faces to any of the solid candies, and then color in the tongue with a red Copic marker and the eyes with a black gel pen. Once that black gel pen is dry, I'm going to go back in with a white opaque pen and add some little white highlights there. And then take the glitter or Stardust glitter pen and add detail to any of the white areas on the candies. So that simple stripe on the solid ones, these stripes on the stripe candy, and then go just kind of trace around the circle design quickly on the polka dot candies. It's a really subtle look, not as easy to see in the video, but in real life it adds a nice little touch of embellishment to the cards. I'm going to do this on all of the cards. An easy way to add some embellishment without having to actually add anything dimensional. So these cards are all going to be fantastic for sending through the mail. They are not going to require extra postage, which I absolutely love. And I don't have to really worry about them maybe catching through the mail either, because they're going to go through so easily. There is my panel. I've also die cut a mat here using a postage stamp die from Simon Says Stamp. I've die cut that from some of the Simon Says Stamp smoke cardstock. I'm going to adhere that directly to this background layer. It's a nice neutral layer. I played around with craft, some darker grays, even black. I kind of like the gray because it was nice and muted and it didn't overpower the design. But it wasn't a color that I used in the stamping, in any of the stamped images, so I thought it provided a nice contrast. I'm going to attach that to a side fold card base, and that is going to finish up the first card. The next card is going to feature an all-over stamped design. This is similar to the card I did a couple years ago, except the colors are a little bit different. And I implemented quite a few more stamped images. They're a lot closer together to create more of a pattern paper look. And I'm going to overlay or place on top of my pattern paper some die cut layers and then stamp a greeting on one of those die cut layers. Again, going to just kind of tip these candies and move them around until I have the entire surface stamped. I'm using the same 4 colors. Again, to keep it nice and consistent. I already had them out, so it was very easy to do. You want to make sure you stamp off of all of the sides so it really gives the illusion of things not just floating out there. It gives it a more cohesive look. And I'm mixing up which images I stamp with which color just to get a nice all over pattern. Stamp just a few more of these to finish it up. At first, I didn't think I would stamp the outlines again. I like the background just like it is, but to keep it consistent with the rest of the cards, I did decide to go ahead and stamp the black outline around each of these images again. The masks come in super handy, especially since there are so many candies on this particular card. Without the mask, it would be really hard to do. So I did all of the colorful stamping first, and then I will go back in and add the black outlines. I added the faces first to kind of figure out exactly which ones I wanted faces for. tipping them this way and that to really add to the pattern. Adding the red tongue with a red Copic marker. Again, the black eyes with a black glaze pen. When that's dry, go back in with a white pen. Tracing over any of the images. I've got the little heart from the Notions stamp set as well, stamped with the My Pleasure ink. And adding glitter detail to all of the candies, just like I did on the last card. There's quite a few more images here. And I took this time to really decide whether or not I wanted to stamp the outlines, but again, just like the other card, with the stamped faces, I really felt like it needed the black outline. Once I have that detail work done, add the white opaque pen to the eyes, which really makes them pop. I'm going to go ahead and stamp the outlines. I've also got a couple of layers die cut from the basic squares and the postage stamp dies. Stamped the Treat Yourself greeting and then the little dots from the How We Roll stamp set right underneath that with the My Pleasure ink. And I'll go ahead and attach that with some foam adhesive and attach the whole panel to a top fold card base to finish that card design. Next, this is similar to the first card, except I stamped the greeting first. Now that I had already stamped one of the cards, I decided to go ahead and stamp one with a very similar look, but this time have all of the candies grounded where they're all coming off of that bottom edge of the card. And I'm working around the greeting more than stamping the candies and stamping over top of the greeting. So I purposely stamped the thank you just a little bit to the left, and then I'm going to build those candies around that. You could even do just maybe 2 or 3, just like it is right here, and leave it at that. I went ahead and finished off the whole border, again stamping a little trio of hearts. Nice white space towards the top, and this one has 3 little faces here all together. Same embellishment for the faces with the Copic marker for the tongue and then the pin detail for the eyes. I'm going to take some more of the patterned candies and fill in all the way across. Once I have these stamped, I will go ahead and use my masks again and mask off and stamp all of those candies. This card is just like the first one, the Sweet Friends card, where I'm going to mount this panel on a die cut postage stamp layer, die cut from some smoke cardstock, and then adhere the whole thing to a white side fold card base. I think it would be fun to maybe even do a whole set of these cards, maybe mix up the colors you use, and you could create a whole set of thank yous to give as a gift to somebody. I know I always love having thank yous on hand, and I've given sets of thank you cards to friends and family before. It's just a really great way for them to have some cards on hand, easy to write up some thank yous. The last card I'm going to share today is going to be a portrait style, and it's going to be a little bit smaller real estate area. I'm using just some of the smaller, or one of the smaller postage stamp dies to give more white space around the edge of the card design. And then I'm going to stamp the candies both above and below a stamped greeting. So the greeting is kind of in the upper half of the card, and then it's going to have a border along the bottom with the candies stamped a little bit taller, and up along the top they're going to be stamped just a little bit shorter. Keep in mind, these are only just a few ways you can use this. There are many, many ways you can stamp these images. As easy as it is to create masks, you could stamp these and fussy cut them and attach them to cards. Lots of great ways to use these cute stamps. I know this was a limited edition stamp set, so once this stamp set is gone from Simon Says Stamp, it is gone. They won't be making any more. I think it's a really cute, fun, customizable stamp set, and I hope this has inspired you to maybe create some fun cards by pulling out some stamps that you have in your stash and haven't used for a while. I'll finish off stamping these cute little candies here on this card. Go ahead and do just like I did before, add a trio of hearts from the Notions stamp set stamped with the My Pleasure ink. Add the detail to the faces, add the outline, and then I will mat this panel on a smaller postage stamp die cut smoke cardstock piece, and then attach this to a top fold card base to finish off my 4th greeting card. Thanks for joining me today for these simple stamped candy greeting cards showcasing Waffle Flower stamps. The supplies I've used to create these cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos that you might be interested in. Please subscribe for weekly card making and stamping videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.